There's a knife that has been carried into almost every single war the United States has fought since 1942. Guadalcanal, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. Same basic design. Same job. Cut rope, open supply crates, and if it ever came down to it, fight for your life at arm's length. It has almost no moving parts. No batteries. No electronics. Nothing to break. This is the story of the Ka-Bar, the simple fighting knife that Marines have trusted for over 80 years. Welcome to Armor History. Today we are talking about the knife every Marine has carried since World War II. Early in World War II, American Marines were heading into the Pacific to fight the Japanese, island by island, in thick jungle. And it quickly became clear that the knives they had been issued weren't good enough. Many Marines were carrying bayonets or basic pocket knives. These worked fine for small jobs, but they weren't built for the brutal, close-up jungle fighting that Marines were facing. Some knives snapped under pressure. Some bent. Some just weren't strong enough to be trusted with your life. Marines needed something better. Something that could survive being dropped in mud, soaked in rain, and used for everything from digging to fighting, without breaking down. So in 1942, a company was given a job. Design a fighting and utility knife tough enough for United States Marines going into brutal combat. That knife became known as the Ka-Bar. The Ka-Bar's design was simple, and that simplicity was the whole point. It had a solid steel blade, about 7 inches long, strong enough to punch through tough material without snapping. The handle was made of stacked leather rings, pressed tightly together, which gave Marines a firm grip even when their hands were wet with rain, sweat, or worse. Unlike more delicate knives, the Ka-Bar wasn't designed to look fancy. It was designed to survive. Marines used it to cut through thick jungle vines. They used it to open supply crates and ration tins. They used it to cut rope, dig into hard ground, and handle dozens of everyday tasks that jungle warfare demanded. And if a Marine ever found himself in close combat, face to face with an enemy soldier, the Ka-Bar was built to be a last resort weapon too. Its blade was designed to be tough enough, and sharp enough, to be trusted in the most desperate moments a soldier could face. Word about the knife spread fast. Marines who carried one swore by it. Soon, almost every Marine heading into the Pacific wanted a Ka-Bar of his own. The Ka-Bar earned its reputation the hard way, through combat. On islands like Guadalcanal, Marines fought the Japanese in brutal, close-range jungle warfare, sometimes in complete darkness, sometimes hand-to-hand. Stories spread of Marines using their Ka-Bar knives in desperate, close combat situations when there wasn't time or space to use a rifle. These stories, true and exaggerated both, only added to the knife's growing legend. But most of the time, the Ka-Bar's real value wasn't as a weapon. It was as a tool. Marines used it constantly, every single day, for tasks that had nothing to do with fighting. Cutting supply lines. Opening food. Cutting through undergrowth to clear a path. Digging a small hole for cover. A knife that could survive that kind of daily abuse, day after day, in brutal jungle heat and rain, earned trust in a way that fancier equipment often didn't. By the end of World War II, the Ka-Bar had become something more than just another piece of military gear. It had become a symbol. Simple, tough, and completely reliable, exactly like the Marines who carried it. After World War II ended, a lot of military gear from that era got replaced. Better rifles came along. Better vehicles. Better radios. Technology moved forward fast. But the Ka-Bar barely changed at all. When Marines went to fight in Korea, and later in Vietnam, They carried the same basic knife design, with only small improvements here and there. And decades later, when American troops were fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan, that same basic cob bar design was still being carried by many of them. Why does something this simple stick around for over 80 years, when almost every other piece of equipment gets replaced again and again? Part of the answer is that a knife doesn't really need batteries, computer chips, or complicated moving parts to do its job well. A well-made blade and a solid handle can outlast almost any piece of high-tech gear, because there's simply less that can go wrong with it. The other part of the answer is trust. Once soldiers trust a piece of equipment with their lives, that trust gets passed down. Marines who carried a cob bar told newer Marines about it. Those newer Marines carried their own, and passed that same trust down again, generation after generation. Today, the cob bar isn't just used by the military. It's become one of the most well-known and trusted knife designs in the entire world, used by hunters, campers, and outdoor workers everywhere. But its identity will always be tied to the Marines who carried it first, through jungle heat, through rain, through some of the most brutal fighting of the 20th century. It wasn't the fanciest weapon on the battlefield. It never needed to be. It just needed to work, every single time it was needed, and it did. That's the whole story of the cob bar in one sentence. A tool built to never let you down, carried by generations of Marines who needed exactly that. If you enjoyed this story, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We cover legendary tanks, weapons, and battles every week. And let me know in the comments, do you own a cob bar, or would you trust a simple knife like this over more modern gear? I read every comment, so drop your thoughts below. See you in the next video.